Hi everyone, welcome back to Pages and Screens. I'm Erin and today I'm so excited to share with you guys my thoughts on the Bane Chronicles and Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, both written by Cassandra Clare. These are the two kind of companion novella bind-up novels that Cassandra Clare's written in the Shadowhunter universe. And I've read these two in preparation for reading The Dark Artifice. First of all, we have the Bane Chronicles, which is a collection of novellas written about Magnus Bane, our favourite warlock. I didn't really like this one too much. I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars. More like 3.5 I would say, which is a lot lower than I expected to give it. I thought I'd give it 5 out of 5 stars because it's Magnus, it's Cassandra Clare, and it's got Malik in it, so yeah. But literally, apart from the last kind of couple stories in this, I was giving most of the stories like 3s, 3.5s. I wasn't a huge fan of this book. It was good, it wasn't great. I am going to go through this book and I'll tell you my ratings for most of the stories. I don't really have too much to say on this book. However, Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, I have a lot to say about that, so I'll keep this bit brief. So, first of all, what really happened in Peru, I gave 2 out of 5 stars. Then The Runaway Queen, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Vampire Scones and Edmund Terrendale, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then The Midnight Air, I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars, mainly because Will, Jem and Tessa were in this one. Rise of the Hotel du Mort, I gave 2.5 out of 5 stars. Sorry. Saving Rafael Santiago, I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Fall of the Hotel du Mort, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. What to Buy, the Shadowhunter who has everything and who you're not officially dating anyway, I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars because Malik is everything to me. The Last Stand of the New York Institute, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The Course of True Love and First Dates, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is my favourite story because Malik. And then The Voicemail of Magnus Bane, 2 out of 5 stars. That was probably the boringest out of all of them. So I had a bit of a mixed pot when it comes to my ratings of these novellas. It felt like quite a disjointed book because it is a binder of novellas. It's not an actual story. Some of them I enjoyed more than others, and that was only because characters that I know and love, like Tessa, Will, Alec, Izzy, were in some of them, so I had to give them a higher rating. But the ones like What Happened in Peru, I didn't enjoy as much, so I gave them quite a low rating. This was good, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but that was my ratings on it. I'm going to stop talking about this one now because this review is going to be very long because Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. So I'm going to jump into Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy now, which I will go more into detail about. This is going to get very rambly and very emotional, so if you don't like those kind of videos, I suggest you stay away now because Simon is my absolute favourite from the Mortal Instruments, and this book was like everything I could ever want in a Simon story. Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy did not turn out how I thought it would. I thought it was like the Bane Chronicles and we had a series of short novellas wrapped up in one, and it does look like that. We've still got these like dividing sections. Okay, I'm just going to give you a warning now. If you haven't read Heavenly Fire or finished The Infernal Devices or The Mortal Instruments, click away now because you are going to be spoiled, like even by the summary of this book alone. So seriously, click off, spoilers. I can't express enough how much you are going to be spoiled if you keep watching now. Okay, so those of you who have read The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices, this book is all about Simon following Heavenly Fire, and as we all know, my baby has his memories taken away from him, so he doesn't remember any of the Shadowhunters. He doesn't remember Clary, he doesn't remember Izzy, he doesn't remember anything, and it broke my heart into a million pieces. I must have cried so badly when I read that. But basically this is all about Simon trying to kind of deal with the loss of his memory. He is going to become a Shadowhunter. He goes to the Shadowhunter Academy as a mundane, and at the end of it he is going to ascend by drinking from the Mortal Cup and he's going to become a Shadowhunter, which is like the coolest thing that could ever happen to Simon. I'm so happy for Simon. He made it. He was a vampire, he was a mundane, now he's a Shadowhunter. He's had a wild ride. The Shadowhunter Academy is like Camp Half-Blood and Hogwarts mixed together in Idris near Alicante, and it's like totally falling down. Like they eat crap, they eat like this like gruel, like Oliver Twist style gruel for their meals. They have tea with bones in it. Like the whole building is crumbling, and Simon and his roommate George Lovelace. You know, Simon befriends quite a lot of people when he's at the Shadowhunter Academy, and he's really trying to come into himself and learn more about who he is, following the loss of his memories, which is really emotional to read about and quite heartbreaking because I love Simon so much. However, this book does not just follow Simon, it follows every single Shadowhunter we have known and loved over the course of the Infernal Devices and the Mortal Instruments. It's just everything you could ever want in a Cassandra Clare book, mixed together with Simon's story. So Simon's narrative follows the course of this entire book, but we've also got like guest lecturers and people telling stories about people in the past who have gone to the Shadowhunter Academy. So to name but a few of the lecturers, we have Izzy, we have Jace, we have Magnus, we have Tessa, we have Katrina Loss, another warlock. We have stories about Herondales, we have stories about Will and Tessa's kids, we have stories about the Circle, about Valentine, about the Lightwood parents, about literally, you name a character that you have known and loved throughout the course of these series, and they are in this book. It is honestly so good, and if you haven't read it and you love Cassandra Clare books, read this book now. Obviously I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It was amazing. It made me laugh, it made me cry, I just felt all the feelings. It was just so good. So I can't really hold myself back from doing the spoiler section now. I just want to jump into this book and start discussing. So if you haven't read it, please click away or you will be spoiled. I think the best way to review this book is probably chronologically. I'm going to go through like each chapter / story, whatever you want to call them, and kind of talk about my feelings on them. Now, the first one, Welcome to Shadowhunter Academy, I didn't love that. I was kind of a bit neutral on that one. It was just kind of the exposition of the book. It was about, you know, Simon starting the Shadowhunter Academy. And this is when I really got those like Camp Halfblood vibes. I feel like George, my baby, George Lovelace is just, oh, I just love him. George Lovelace turns up. It's one of Jessamine Lovelace's ancestors. That's when I freaked out. I just saw the words Lovelace and I was just like, that's it, I'm done. George really reminded me of like Ron Weasley and Grover from Percy Jackson, like combined but also really attractive and Scottish. And when Simon called George his brother like so many times, my heart. Katrina Loss as well, the warlock that runs the academy, kind of, she does it in honour of Ragnar Fell. I just thought that was so sweet of her. I really liked Katrina over the course of this book. I really liked her development and how she warmed to Simon. That was just really nice to read about, and I really enjoyed her character. She was just so feisty and like she just could not give a fuck. The second story was The Lost Herondale. The Clave just pissed me off. The Lost Herondale was the story where we just get to see how awful the Clave is. This story is so important as well because it's all about prejudice and discrimination, and Simon like fights for the underdogs. He fights for the right thing. He fights for like equality and tries to kind of break down stereotypes and discrimination, and that's why I just love Simon so much. The Lost Herondale just made me so angry. That whole story about Tobias Herondale and how he was driven mad by a demon, and he basically had a hallucination showing him that his pregnant wife was in danger whilst he was like in the battle. So he went crazy from this hallucination that a demon put on him, and he ran home to go and save his wife, but that was mistaken by the Clave for cowardice. And so when he was never found after that, they punished his pregnant wife, killed her, and then Katrina Loss had to save the baby. What? I just don't understand how the Clave thinks that punishing a pregnant woman who did nothing wrong because her husband was a coward. They just totally presumed that he was being a coward. They didn't even try and hear him out or figure out what had actually happened. They just jumped to conclusions and then killed a woman, pregnant woman. Dickheads. The Clave are evil dickheads and they need to be stopped. Then we have the chapter that's about Tessa, and she comes to the academy and she does this speech and she starts talking about stories and how much importance stories hold, and it just took me right back. And I love how Simon was like fangirling over Tessa, and he was like, she's a really hot nerd that likes graphic novels, and I was just like... And then we have Tessa's story about Jack the Ripper. It's all about how Tessa and Will and Jem and it's just everyone from the Infernal Devices, they all were trying to solve the mystery of Jack the Ripper, and it turns out that Jack the Ripper was a demon that wanted, like, it was like a child demon that wanted a mother. I loved it. I thought it was genius, and it was so cute to see little James Herondale running around with his wooden spoon. It was so cute at the end of the Whitechapel chapter when Simon convinced Jace to go and talk to Tessa, because obviously Tessa was a Herondale and Jace is a Herondale and they're like distant relatives. Nothing But Shadows was like the greatest thing ever. It was all about James Herondale going to Shadowhunter Academy, and he meets Matthew Fairchild, who's the son of Henry and Charlotte. And at first, like, Matthew is like a dickhead and like we don't like him, but like you can see that it's like a Will situation. It's a Will Herondale situation. We know that he is acting like a dickhead, but he's actually not, which he totally isn't. And then we've also got Thomas, who I think is Sophie and Gideon's son. Then we've got Christopher, who I think is Cecily and Gabriel's son. James Herondale is a really socially awkward, introverted boy, and he likes reading. He's like his mum, but also he has this crazy ability that comes from Tessa and her warlock ability, that he can turn into shadow. He can like basically dissolve into like a transparent shadow mist thing, which can let objects just like pass through him, which is so cool. He basically gets kicked out of school for that, which is just, again, the Clave are dickheads. The best thing to come out of that chapter is that Matthew and James become best friends at the end, and they're going to be parabatai, and I feel like maybe there could be a romance. But this chapter, Nothing But Shadows, was so good, and of course we get to see Will, and Will is just wonderful. And I love the end of the chapter when Will is takes the two boys back to the institute, and he's like, oh, we should go and see the Silent Brothers on the way back because, you know, one of us could have been injured. And Matthew's like, why do we need to see the Silent Brothers? And then James is just like, he'll get it eventually. He'll get why Dad likes the Silent Brothers. And just like, I love how Will goes out of his way to see Jem whenever he can. I just think it's just so cute, but also breaks my heart into a million pieces. The Evil We Love was like such an interesting chapter, and it made me really, really angry. Robert comes to the academy to be a guest speaker, and Isabel comes with him. We all know that Robert is a dickhead. I do not like him, however he does kind of redeem himself through the course of this book. We get an insight into the circle kind of during the rise to power of Valentine, and we get to see how manipulative he was and how much control he held over the circle. We also get to see how much of a dickhead Robert is. We realise he didn't even love Mars at all. Like, he spends the whole time being like, I'm with Mars, I like Mars, but I don't love her. And then his parabatai Michael Wayland tells Robert that he's in love with him, and Robert basically like completely pies him off and is just so awful to him and is just such a homophobe. And I just couldn't stand it. Like, I couldn't stand reading that, because obviously Alec, like, Robert's son is gay, and this is how he treated his gay parabatai in the past. I was just honestly disgusted reading what Robert said to Mike. I nearly forgot about the Pale Kings and Princes chapter. Helen Blackthorne comes to the academy to be a guest lecturer again, and obviously Helen and Mark were born from a Shadowhunter and a fairy, so they're both half fairy, and following the events of Heavenly Fire, fairies are getting hugely discriminated against because of their alliance with Sebastian, and it's actually awful to read. In this chapter, Pale Kings and Princes, we really get to see the extent of the discrimination against the fairies. Regardless of the fact that Helen is a Shadowhunter by blood, regardless of the fact that she can bear marks and that she can wield seraph blades, the Clave do not care about who she is. They don't care about her Shadowhunter blood, her Shadowhunter upbringing. They see her as fairy, they see her as stained, and that's why her and Aline are on Wrangel Island. It's just awful to read about how they force her to tell the story of her birth. What was really interesting about this chapter was the ending. Cassandra kind of suggests that the fairy was actually in love with Andrew, like truly in love with him, which was such an interesting concept. Like, I'd never thought that maybe she actually did genuinely love him before. That was just so weird, and I kind of want to know more. I'm hoping in the Dark Artifices we maybe get more insight into that story. But of course, the whole reason why Helen told the story and agreed to be a guest lecturer was because she and Aline are getting married, and they're gonna get married in Idris, and they do get married, and it's so cute. Oh my god, I nearly forgot to talk about how much I love Marisol in this book. I adored Marisol. She was one of the mundanes at the academy with Simon, and I just love how not only Simon grows as a character throughout this book, but all the other characters, like Marisol really develops. John Cartwright as well. I hated him until him and Marisol started becoming closer. Marisol kind of takes it upon herself to kind of convert John into being accepting of mundanes, and she decides to tell him all about mundane culture and mundane lifestyle. John like hates it. She's like, I'm going to tell you all about video games, I'm going to tell you all about surgery and mundane medicine, and he's like, no, I don't want to hear any of it. But she tells him, and through that they become like really close, and it's kind of hinted at that there's a little romance going on. And when Marisol is ascending at the end of the book and John's really nervous about it, and it's just really cute. I really hope that this book's not the end of John and Marisol, because I really like those two characters, and Marisol was so gutsy and so fierce, and I just love how romance can change people and their opinions. It was just a really sweet relationship. The next chapter I want to talk about is Bitter of Tongue. It starts off with Simon going on a mission to hunt down Fae and the fairies, and he ends up in Fairyland. That sounds like something out of like a kid's book or something. He ends up in Fairyland, and he basically gets locked up in a cage, and then he's like, he gets a memory back and he's like, wait, haven't I been locked up before as a vampire and as a mundane? It's just really funny. Simon always seems to be getting locked up. Who would come and rescue him but Izzy? This is kind of one of the turning points in their relationship in this book. It's been pretty rocky for the whole book. Sizzy has not been in a good place at all. Izzy comes and like saves him from the cage, and they have a little Lord Montgomery moment. It's really cute. Simon's always the one that gets locked up, and Izzy's always the one that saves him, and that's just their relationship summed up pretty much, and I really love it. Bitter of Tongue is quite awful to read as well, because we see Mark Blackthorn, who has been basically imprisoned by the Wild Hunt, and he's trapped there. Like, the Shadowhunters won't come and save him, the Clave don't care about him because he's a fairy, and basically he is trapped in the Wild Hunt, and he is losing his mind. I cannot wait till someone tries to get him back. I really hope that we get him back in the Dark Artifices, and please save Mark. I want Mark to be fine. I want him to be safe and happy and with his family, and it's just awful because obviously this chapter as well is the chapter where Helen and Aline get married and Mark can't be there for it. The weirdest chapter of this book was the Fiery Trial, a story that focused on Parabatai. It was kind of a dual narrative going on with Clary and Simon, and then also Emma and Julian. It was weird, like, we basically see Simon and Clary meet with like Magnus, Katrina, and then they make them drink this tea which contains water from Lake Lynn. Like, who thought that was a good idea? And it makes Clary and Simon hallucinate, and basically it was all a test to see if Clary and Simon will be compatible as Parabatai, which I'm sorry, but it was pretty obvious that they were compatible as parabatai. They've been best friends since they were like 5 years old. I don't know why it was necessary to have hallucinogenic Lake Lynn water in the equation. I was just a bit confused. And then we also have Emma and Julian become parabatai, which is not going to end well because Julian is in love with Emma. And obviously, parabatai can't be in love. And that's like the whole point of the Dark Artifices. So great. I was happy that the outcome of this chapter was that Clary and Simon are going to be parabatai after Simon ascends. That made me really happy, but the whole rest of the chapter just felt a bit weird and like unnecessary. Oh my god, this chapter, like, it's just the best. Born to Endless Night. This was the chapter I was waiting for. I didn't know I needed this chapter until I read it. Basically, Magnus and Alec, they find a baby, a warlock baby, on the steps of the academy. They adopt the baby. They adopt it. They're going to be dads. They are dads. Alec decides that he wants to be a father. All the Lightwoods come, and Clary and Jace and Simon, and they all start baby-proofing the room, and they call the baby Max Lightwood. They call the baby Max. My heart just exploded with emotions. I was so happy and I was crying, and everybody loves the baby, and I love how the Lightwoods were so accepting of this baby. It just shows how far they've come. The Lightwoods were, at the start of the Mortal Instruments, a family that was so rooted in tradition and honour and family, keeping the family name pure and all that. And for them to accept Alec as being gay and then accept the fact that his boyfriend was a warlock, and then to go one step further and agree to be grandparents to a warlock child, was just the best thing that I could have read. I loved how much they got into this baby. Robert wanted to hold the baby. Everyone was just gushing over this tiny little blue warlock baby, and it just made me so happy to read about. We got to the point in the review where I'm gonna get really sad because George, Cassandra Clare, why do you have to do this? He was the most deserving person to become a Shadowhunter that there was. He didn't deserve that at all. The Mortal Cup knows who is worthy of being a Shadowhunter and who isn't, and I don't understand how George was not worthy. He was everything that a Shadowhunter should be, and for Cassandra Clare to kill him off was just the worst thing that could have happened. Simon took George's last name. He took the name Lovelace in honour of George, which means Izzy's gonna be a Lovelace. And then when Simon was at the funeral at George's gravestone, he saw Jessie and George's ghosts, and that just, oh, it was so bittersweet, this chapter, this final chapter, because obviously Simon ascended, but also, sadly, George didn't make it to the end of the book. I'll think nothing bad's gonna happen at 5 pages from the end of the book, but no, it's Cassandra Clare. Of course something bad's gonna happen. So I'm gonna stop talking about this book now because this video is probably very, very long. It was just so good, and if you haven't read Shadowhunter Academy and you've read Cassandra Clare books, really go read it because it's honestly worth your time. That's everything I have to say on these 2 books. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!